Wings and Things is an episode that is above average. It's a very typical filler episode, but it does some things that make it special and stand out more than most. Still, in general, it's not the greatest episode, and ultimately can still be forgettable. With that said, this episode is still somehow one of the top ones of Johto League Champions. Yes, an above-average filler episode is one of this season's best. Leave it to Season 4 to have an episode like this one be one of its better ones. I guess that goes to show how much of a brain-dead wasteland of filler Season 4 is. So, yeah, we got ourselves an episode with good and bad in spades, though the good ultimately outweighs the bad for the most part. With all that, let's get into what's going on here then, shall we? The beginning of this episode is weird. It's kind of slow getting us into things, but at the same time, it's really efficient in the sense that it's made almost entirely of important information. Like, I wouldn't exactly know what to take out in order to speed things along because this episode doesn't really waste time on anything with this start. This doesn't change the fact that it's still kind of dry, but at least I don't see anything fundamentally wrong. Maybe a better storyboard or framing could fix it and make it more interesting. I'll get into visuals later. But as is, there's not a lot of holes to poke on the story front. Once we get into Zachary's dad's workshop, things start to pick up story-wise as we get into the real meat and potatoes of this conflict. Zachary's Yanma is destroying all the windows in town all the time. This is already a bad look, but it's made even worse by the fact that his dad is a glassmaker. So yeah, a very, very not good look. Zach has tried to get Yanma under control, but no dice, so his dad tells him that he's gotta release the thing. This is a strong conflict to center the episode around. It's one where there's no easy answers. Zachary and Yanma clearly care for each other, but it's also true that Yanma is causing all kinds of havoc on a regular basis, and it's a real problem that needs to be addressed. Instead of the many other conflicts at the center of many other filler episodes where the character today just wants something or whatever and has to work really hard for it and or have Ash and crew help achieve it, in this episode what Zach wants conflicts with the reality of his situation. It's an internal struggle between Zach's love of his Pokemon versus him not wanting to cause trouble to the townsfolk. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, it does fit that mold of the typical filler character of the day conflict, but this one's just got a bit more meat to it. The actual details of the problem are interesting. This is helped by the fact that the first half of this episode works really hard to flesh out the relationship more than your average filler. The episode is really good at getting us to like Zach and Yanma and understand things from their point of view, showing them together, getting better, becoming friends and all that good stuff. At the same time, it also does a good job showing how much of a menace Yanma is to the town, with all these town folks cowering in fear and with how this baker guy goes on about how frequent these incidents have become. I say all this and talk about how it's strong and stuff, but, well, it's strong for an obvious filler episode. Let me be clear, this isn't Go West Young Mouth, but I'm not comparing it to Go West Young Mouth. I'm comparing it to, like, Mountain Time, or The Grass Route, or The Dunsparce Assumption, or any other generic mid-Johto filler. Next to those, it's strong, but it's still Johto filler. This good, but let's not go overboard with the praise mentality, can also be seen with the visuals. They're okay. They're just fine. It doesn't look outright ugly or anything, which for this kind of episode is a positive, but it's incredibly dry. The storyboard in particular isn't creative. There's no special flares or dynamic shots or posing. It's just exactly what the story needs and not much more. This seems like a small thing, but honestly it's one of the bigger things holding the episode back. We'll get into a lot of the writing problems in the second half of the episode, but those kinds of things can absolutely be made up for with stellar visuals and animation. So the fact that the episode looks so aggressively average while not being bad in and of itself does not help the episode in its attempt to stick out from the rest of the mid-Johto quagmire. So yeah, there's some trouble with the meh storyboard and the structure being very standard filler, but like I said, the main conflict is interesting and this is still a very good opening, so I'm sure we can follow up on the episode setup and Team Rocket shows up. Look, Team Rocket comes up a lot in these videos, and for good reason. Until Best Wishes, when the series finally decided that no, Team Rocket does not need to be in every episode had to square away with how they were going to manage Team Rocket. I've mostly talked about episodes that do handle Team Rocket well so far, but let me be clear, those are the exception, not the rule. For 85% of episodes, Team Rocket's just used to inject artificial conflict in an episode otherwise devoid of it, or worse, pad out time in the worst way possible by wasting space in an episode that would have otherwise been used for more interesting stuff. In short, as good as Team Rocket can be, and they can be used well, they're mostly a detriment to the show. This episode is a representation of the average. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's the worst use of Team Rocket, especially for this season, but it still very much fails in using them well, and it brings down the episode so much. To start, we have their introduction and this really slow and stupid poem section. My goodness, this part feels like walking through molasses. It's one of those bits where you can just tell everyone in the studio was tracking how long this thing was to see how much time they could squeeze out of it. Blech. Then Team Rocket actually captures Yanma. I could talk about the interesting implications of this. Yanma is a wild Pokemon at this point, so Team Rocket isn't doing anything wrong yet technically, but I won't because unfortunately the episode isn't interested in any of that. Instead, it goes for a generic Team Rocket scheme. Yay! Alright, so what is Team Rocket's brilliant idea this time? Have Yanma break the windows and then sell the town folks item sheet to replace them? Ugh! I'm sorry for being so blunt, but this is a really stupid plan. Anyone paying attention for more than 2 seconds is going to clearly see that the glass is not glass and that it's melting. Even more so with just how many windows Team Rocket has to replace. Just on a logical level, this fails so miserably. It's a scheme that just makes your brain hurt with how bad and stupid it is. Why are you insulting my intelligence, Season 4 of Johto? Because you're watching me. Fair point. Ugh. Worst part about this scheme? It's only a top 10 worst Team Rocket scenes of the Johto arc. If that. I mean, maybe top 5, but certainly not top 3. Yeah, that's just how bad Team Rocket can be sometimes, and how bad this season can be most of the time. So the town thinks Zack is behind it despite his obvious confusion, but whatever. Right now we have to get back to Ash and Company as they encounter Zack's dad. This part is mostly here to continue getting at the idea that Zack's dad isn't doing this out of malice, and overall it succeeds. It is way too tell don't show for my taste, which I'm mostly blaming on the storyboard. Seriously, why don't they actually show us Yanmega breaking Joy's glass equipment? But still, it's not as bad as the previously discussed Team Rocket stuff, and it definitely helps make Zachary's dad a likable character in this narrative. Once Zack and the angry townspeople get here, things start to come to a head as Zack's confusion sets off Ash and Company's alarm bells that Team Rocket is somehow behind this. Unfortunately, by this point, Team Rocket is probably several miles away, continuing their stupid Gosh darn it, are you freaking kidding me? I swear, half the Team Rocket's games don't work because they just don't know how to freaking book it. Anyway, yeah, this thing turns just to a big Team Rocket fight at the end, the thing that every generic filler episode does to cap off its third act. Not a good setup, but perhaps this episode can make up for it in its details. Let's see, we got stained glass windows that the gang is trying not to destroy. That's something. But it doesn't really factor into the battle all that much, despite how much the writer clearly wants it to, which really stinks. This battle has Zack fight with Yanma for the first time, and it's just okay. It doesn't do a good job explaining how telling Yanma that the glass-breaking wind flapping is actually a move makes it controllable somehow, and in general it clunks really hard. But you know what? I'm happy for Zack. The start of the episode makes him likable, and this ending of the episode has made his dad likable also, so yeah, it's nice to see things work out in the end. Even if it's clunky and to have your cake and eat it too with the stained glass window not factoring at all like it was supposed to. It's fine. This is fine. I wish it was great, but it's fine. Fine is probably the best description of the episode. Overall it's good, especially that first part, but it takes a hidden quality from its poor use of Team Rocket, and while it does recover a little bit in the finale, it still doesn't reach the great heights that it had the potential to. Still, when compared to the sea of its fellow mid-Johto siblings, it gives just a little bit more, which is appreciated. So if there's any episode from Season 4 that you should have a second look at, it's Joy Water Pokemon. I mean, come on. But if you ever find yourself going mentally numb while watching through the Johto arc during your rewatch of Pokemon, then enjoy this small little reprieve from the Johto quagmire with genuinely good parts that somehow make it one of the better episodes of Johto. Oh, come on, that's not how stained glass works. Are you freaking kidding me? God, Howdy y'all, thank you for watching this video. Not a lot of crazy stuff behind the scenes with making it, outside of some anxieties around missing that 1 week, but outside of that, just a relatively smooth process for making this video, and I'm really happy I did it because that means I don't have to talk about Johto for a long time. Yeah, this season of the anime, I'm not gonna lie, kind of sucks, and I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time talking about it because it's really boring, but yeah, I got this out of the way, and now I can move on to stuff that's a little more interesting. So, like I said, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and until next time, bye.